The galaxy was a big place, and humans were still newcomers. After years of peace, a war had broken out near the edge of the Orion sector. The Yishani Dominion, a proud and powerful alien empire, wanted control over the mineral-rich moon called Velcor 7. Humans had started mining it, and that made the Yishani angry. During a surprise attack, the Yishani army landed on Velcor 7 with dozens of ships. They outnumbered and outgunned the human soldiers. The battle was short. Some humans escaped. Some did in single quotes T. One man did not run. His name was Sergeant Elias Grant, and he stayed behind to hold the last communication tower, so the others could send a final warning to Earth. He knew he would be captured, but he didn't care. Orders were orders. The Yishani soldiers stormed the outpost and found Elias alone, standing with his hands up, surrounded by damaged walls and broken equipment. His armor was dirty, his face was calm. He looked tired, but not afraid. The aliens laughed when they saw him. "This is the one who stopped our scanners," one of them said. "He looks like a broken machine," said another. "He didn't even fight. Weak, just like the others." They tied his hands and dragged him to their command base, which they had built on the surface of the moon. It was full of tall, dark towers and glowing signs in their alien language. Soldiers marched in perfect rows. Ships flew overhead. Everything was organized, clean, and cold. Elias didn't speak. He looked around, his eyes catching small details, door locations, guard weapons, blinking lights on panels. The aliens thought he was scared, but in truth, he was studying in the main courtyard. The Yishani commander, Captain Ravuk, stepped forward. He was tall and blue-skinned, with armor that shimmered like metal. He looked at Elias and smiled. "So, this is the famous human who destroyed our sensor relay," Ravuk said. Elias didn't answer. "Nothing to say, or perhaps you don't speak," Ravuk laughed, and the other soldiers joined him. Elias kept quiet. Talking wasn't his mission. They locked him in a metal cell with no bed, just a small bench and a light that never turned off. 2 guards stood outside at all times. The food was cold and dry. Every few hours, a soldier would come and mock him, sometimes tapping on the walls or throwing crumbs at him like he was a small animal in a cage. But Elias said nothing. He sat, watched, listened. He counted footsteps, noted which doors made a noise, and memorized the timing of guard shifts. He even used the blinking light above the door to measure time, like a slow clock. The Yishani thought he was broken. "He doesn't even eat half the time," one guard said. "Humans are fragile. They break easily," another replied. What they didn't know was that Elias had trained for years under extreme conditions. He once lived for 2 weeks on a frozen asteroid with only one heat pack. He had eaten less and survived worse. They also didn't know about the badge hidden inside his boot, a tiny device that stored encrypted signals. Elias had already activated it before his capture. Now it was slowly gathering data from the base's systems. Every hour, it pulsed once, sending a short message into deep space. Too weak to detect unless you knew exactly where to listen. The humans would hear it. He just needed time. One evening, as the twin moons of Velcor 7 rose into the dark sky, a group of young Yishani soldiers passed by the cell. One of them looked at Elias and laughed loudly. "Look at him. He doesn't even blink," he said. "Maybe he's already gone mad," said another. "Or maybe he's planning something," the third one joked. All of them laughed. Elias looked at them, finally speaking for the first time. "Keep laughing," he said softly. "You'll remember it later." The aliens stopped for a moment. The hallway fell silent. Then the group shrugged and walked off, laughing again. But one of them, a junior technician, looked back. He had seen something in Elias's eyes. Not fear, not pain. Purpose. Days passed slowly inside the cold Yishani prison cell. The light above Elias Grant's head stayed on all the time. The walls were metal. The air smelled like fuel and old wires. Most prisoners would have lost hope in a place like this. But Elias wasn't most people. He sat quietly, back straight, eyes always open. He had stopped talking again. The guards thought he was defeated. They didn't know this silence was part of the plan. While sitting still, Elias was listening to every sound, every footstep, every door click. He could now guess which guard was walking past, just by the weight of their boots. One of them dragged his left foot slightly. Another always hummed a strange tune. These small details mattered. Elias also paid attention to the walls. The metal vibrated when something heavy moved in another room. He used these sounds to learn about the base. One wall was close to the engine room. It always gave off heat. Another was near the outer quarter. It echoed more. Every day, the guards came and dropped food through a small opening. Sometimes they laughed. Sometimes they made jokes. Humans still alive. He hasn't even touched his meal. Maybe he's waiting for his rescue. How cute. But Elias wasn't thinking about food. He was thinking about timing. On the third night, something happened. There was a flicker in the lights just for half a second. Most people wouldn't notice it, but Elias did. It was enough to tell him that the base's power system was running on cycles. That was important. He stood up and quietly moved to the wall that felt warmest. He pressed his ear to it. The sound of engines pulsed every 38 seconds. That meant fuel lines were closed, maybe even behind the wall. That night, Elias finally opened the heel of his boot. Inside was the small badge, a micro device designed to connect with human tech. Slowly, he placed it near the wall where the engine signals were strongest. It lit up with a faint green flash. The message had begun transmitting again, one short pulse every hour. Almost impossible to detect. It was enough. Now Elias had one job: create confusion. The next day, he asked for water. It surprised the guards. They laughed and brought it to him. Finally, the human speaks again. One of them said, but as soon as the guard opened the hatch, Elias tossed the metal cup back. It hit the wall and shattered into pieces. One piece slid under the door, just a tiny sliver. Later that night, Elias picked it up. He used it to unscrew a vent cover near the floor, working silently. Every time he heard footsteps, he stopped moving. It took him 3 nights, but finally, the vent came loose. He didn't crawl out. Not yet. Instead, he started playing the quiet game. Each morning, something small would go wrong in the base. At first, it was simple. A door stuck open, a light blinking the wrong color. Then it grew worse. Food machines gave the wrong orders. Locks failed. Screens showed the wrong maps. The engineers were confused. The soldiers grew tired. Captain Ravak became angry. "This is sabotage," he shouted during a meeting. "Impossible, sir," one officer said. "Only one prisoner is inside. Check him again. Search the cell. Do it twice." They searched Elias's cell. They found nothing. He sat calmly as they looked under his bench and inside his boots. When they left, he smiled slightly. Outside, rumors started to spread. Could the human be a spy? Maybe he brought a device with him. He hasn't even spoken in days. Meanwhile, Elias used the vent to crawl out late at night. He only stayed out for minutes at a time. He mapped the hallways. He left small marks near doors. He even reached a storage room once and returned with a broken shiny datapad. He was building something. Back in his cell, Elias carefully connected wires from the datapad to the metal walls. It didn't look like much, just a few scraps held together, but it worked. He was now feeding information to his hidden badge each time the base systems glitched. Earth was learning something new. Then, one night, a guard rushed into the command room. "Sir, someone has opened the outer hangar door for 10 seconds. "Who?" Ravak shouted. "No one knows." Cameras turned black. Just for a moment, the captain paused. He remembered Elias's calm face, his quiet voice. "This human. He's not broken," Ravak whispered. "He's waiting." The shiny base on Velcor 7 had become a place of confusion. Doors were acting strange. Some wouldn't open at all, while others stayed open too long. Lights flickered without reason. Machines gave the wrong messages. Security cameras shut off for seconds, then came back with blurry images. Captain Ravak grew more and more frustrated. "This is not a system error," he shouted during a command briefing. "This is someone's doing." But the only outsider is the human prisoner. One officer said, and his cell is secure. We checked it 3 times. Ravak narrowed his eyes. Check it 10 more times. In the prison cell, Elias Grant sat calmly, his hands folded in his lap. His face showed no emotion, but his mind was always working. The small device in the wall was still active, sending short bursts of data every hour. Elias had also added new connections using broken wires from an old datapad. Now he could trigger short glitches in nearby systems, just enough to keep the base confused. He had also started leaving behind clues on purpose. One day, a hallway door opened by itself, and inside, a small human boot print was found on the floor. The guards froze. How did he get here? One of them asked. His cell is still locked. Captain Ravak called for more troops. Extra guards were placed around the base. They searched every room and checked every corner, but found nothing. That night, Elias smiled. He wanted them nervous. Each time the base grew more chaotic. He became more patient. He never moved too fast. He only left his cell for a few minutes at a time through the floor vent, always crawling back before the guards checked. Now he knew the base's weak spots. He knew the paths of the fuel lines. He knew the codes the aliens used to open storage rooms. He even found where they kept emergency supplies and marked it for later. Most important of all, he had reached the central control hallway once. He didn't enter, but he saw enough. How many guards, what type of security panels, and which walls were made of thinner metal. He was ready for the next step. But Elias was not alone. Back on Earth, the signals from his hidden transmitter were finally received by the Survivor Corps' command. The message was weak, but clear. Prisoner alive. Base vulnerable. Ready for response. Coordinates locked. Earth sent a silent reply. It was only one word. Wait. And so Elias waited. Meanwhile, inside the Ishani base, fear was spreading. Officers began whispering among themselves. Is the human using our tech? But how? His hands are always behind his back. He eats barely anything. He doesn't even speak. Some believed Elias had help. Others believed he had special powers. But Captain Ravak knew better. This is human planning, he said quietly. They are patient. They observe. We laughed at him, but we gave him time. Ravak ordered all base systems to be reset. He told the guards to stop mocking the prisoner and instead watch him closely. But it was too late. That very night, the main storage room doors opened for exactly 8 seconds. Long enough for something to disappear, a small pack of tools. In an old map of the ventilation system, Ravak was furious. He stood in front of Elias's cell with 4 guards. Tell me how you did it, he said. Elias didn't blink. He simply looked up and said one thing. You're not the only ones with eyes. Then he went silent again. Ravak stepped back. He had never felt nervous in front of a human before, but this one made him feel uncertain. That was new. Elsewhere on the moon, far above the surface, Earth's stealth ship had arrived, hidden behind the shadow of Velcor 7. It waited for the signal to drop troops. Elias's data had already helped them design the perfect infiltration plan. Back in the cell, Elias now knew something the aliens didn't. He wasn't trapped anymore. He was leading. Each flicker in the light, each stuck door, each failed camera was his way of drawing a map for his team. He had turned the enemy's base into a puzzle and he was giving Earth the pieces. All he had to do now was make sure the Ishani stayed confused. So he played the quiet game a little longer. And somewhere, deep inside the base, the lights blinked once more. The Ishani base was no longer calm. Every day brought new problems. Some doors refused to open. Other doors opened without command. Lights blinked in odd patterns. Machines restarted on their own. The soldiers became nervous. Officers argued. Some believed it was just a technical fault. Others started to whisper about the human in Cell 14. Captain Ravak could feel the tension in the air. The base, once strong and proud, now felt like a maze of mistakes. He stood inside the command center, watching a screen that showed Elias Grant, still sitting quietly in his cell. He hasn't moved much, one officer said. Exactly, Ravak replied. And that's what worries me. Ravak knew something was coming. He didn't know when or how. But he could feel it in his bones. He was right. That night, something new happened. An alarm rang out across the base, but not from inside. It was an external alert. A known object entering atmosphere. The system announced. Is it a rock? A guard asked. No. The tech officer said, eyes wide. It's a ship, a small one. Stealth design. Ravok rushed to the control panel. Where is it landing? Sector 4, right inside the hangar. How is that possible? The hangar is closed. No, sir. The hangar door just opened by itself. Ravok stared at the screen. He let them in. In the prison cell, Elias stood for the first time in hours. He brushed the dust off his uniform and waited near the door. Outside, the base lights dimmed. A quiet thud echoed from the lower levels. Then another, and another. Human drop pods had landed right inside the Ishani base. This was no accident. This was a planned rescue. Elias had given Earth's forces the exact door codes, the timing, and even which corridors were empty. The humans moved through the base like shadows, guided by the map he had built from inside his cell. The Ishani soldiers rushed to respond, but nothing worked. Their weapons failed to charge. Their defense systems didn't activate, doors sealed. Them in or out at the wrong times. Everything was falling apart. Captain Ravok tried to give orders, but the screen in front of him went dark. Then a human voice came through the speaker. Base systems overridden. Human operation in progress. Ravok stepped back in shock. How could one prisoner bring down an entire outpost in the prison wing? Two human soldiers reached Elias's cell. One of them tapped the code into the door panel, and it slid open with a soft hiss. Sergeant Grant, the soldier said. Welcome back. Elias gave a small nod. Took you long enough. He walked out calmly, as if he had just finished a long shift, but inside, he felt proud. His mission wasn't just survival, it was victory. As the team moved through the base, Elias led them. This way, he said. Left corridor is blocked. Go right. He remembered everything. Which rooms had weapons? Which ones had supplies? He moved like someone who had built the place himself. The humans took control in less than 30 minutes. By the time the Ishani soldiers realized what was happening, it was too late. Their own base had turned against them. Lights turned red, security doors locked, and every screen now showed the Earth flag. In the command center, Captain Ravok stood alone. His officers had fled, or been captured. He looked up and saw Elias enter, calm and steady. Ravok raised his hands. You planned this from the beginning. Elias didn't answer with anger. He simply said, You gave me time. That was your mistake. Ravok shook his head slowly. You were just one man. Elias looked around the room. One is enough. If he knows how to use the silence. Outside, the Earth team gathered the remaining Ishani soldiers. No one was hurt badly. The humans didn't come for revenge, they came to send a message. They had won without destroying everything. They had taken back control with precision, not chaos, and the galaxy would hear about it. Elias stood on the top platform as the Earth flag was raised over the base. The human soldiers saluted. The Ishani prisoners watched silently. It was not just a rescue. It was a turning point. The Ishani base on Velcor 7 had changed forever. The humans now controlled the command center, the hangars, and every important room. The once proud Ishani soldiers were gathered in groups, guarded but treated with respect. No one was hurt badly. The humans did not want enemies, they wanted peace. Sergeant Elias Grant stood tall on the platform inside the command hall. His armor was a mix of human and captured Ishani design, showing he had walked both sides of this fight. His calm eyes scanned the room. Captain Ravok, once a fierce enemy, now sat quietly among the captured soldiers. His face showed respect and something like wonder. You were patient, Ravok said quietly as Elias approached him. You waited. You watched. You planned. Elias nodded. It was never about fighting harder. It was about fighting smarter. Ravok looked down for a moment. I laughed at you when I first saw you. I thought you were weak. But I was wrong. That mistake cost you your base, Elias said. But it doesn't have to cost us a war. Elias then turned to face the humans and aliens together. This battle is over. But the war for understanding is just beginning across the galaxy. News spread quickly. The story of a single human soldier who survived captivity, sabotaged a powerful alien base, and helped lead a rescue team became a symbol of something new. It was a symbol of human strength, not just physical power, but willpower, patience, and intelligence. Leaders on Earth sent messages to other alien empires. They offered peace talks and invitations for trade. Many species had underestimated humans before, but now they were cautious. One message traveled far beyond any war zone. Never underestimate a human. Back on Velcor 7, the humans began repairing the base. The Ishani agreed to help. They knew that fighting humans was not the way forward. Sergeant Elias Grant watched the stars through a large window. The quiet hum of the base surrounded him. He felt tired but hopeful. He thought of Earth, the home that trained him, sent him on this mission, and trusted him to survive. He thought of the humans who would hear the story of this fight and feel proud. Most of all, he thought of the future. The future was not about war. It was about respect. Elias believed that humans and aliens could find a way to work together. They could learn from each other and build a better galaxy. He smiled. The galaxy was watching now, and humanity was ready.